Welcome to another episode of Voices in Health and Wellness. This is where we spotlight the real stories behind the innovators, the innovations, the challenges and transformations in today's health and wellness landscape. Today, I'm thrilled to welcome Tal Reza, the founder of Plasma Med Spa in Florida. Tal launched her practice just about a year ago and is already making waves in the aesthetic space, particularly with her thoughtful approach to patient education and client retention. In a landscape that's constantly evolving, Tal brings a fresh and honest perspective about what it really looks like to build a med spa from the ground up. So Tal, thank you very much for joining us on the show this afternoon.
Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. So maybe we could start at the top. Could you talk a little bit about how Plasma Med Spa came to life and what pulled you into aesthetics in the first place?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am a nurse practitioner in the United States. My background, I was a nurse, obviously becoming a nurse practitioner. I was an ER and ICU nurse before I got my master's and my doctorate. And then I worked actually in orthopedic surgery for 9 years. And so I used a lot of plasma in the practice that I worked at. So mostly for muscle, tendon, joint pain, ligament tears, things like that. And so I was interested in aesthetics. Actually, one of my coworkers kept telling me to open up a med spa. And so when I decided that I was going to make the move to aesthetics, I decided that I wanted to bring basically the regenerative medicine aspect of plasma into aesthetics. And that was going to be my focus. So that's how Plasma Med Spa came about.
Very cool. For those that don't know much about plasma and how it's used, can you just give us a little kind of high level overview of how you use it and what it can help with?
Yeah, absolutely. So plasma, and again, the studies and when it did start to become widely used, it was mostly in wound healing and orthopedics. So plasma, the way that I explain it to my patients has basically the immune triggers, right? So they trigger our system anytime we cut ourselves or, have any sort of injury. Our plasma is one of the first things to trigger that response from our body for healing. So when we need to grow skin cells, right? When we cut ourselves, when we need to grow liver cells because of a liver injury, right? Like whatever cells, it's stimulating our body's own stem cells. And so when they started using it in practice again for wound healing and for orthopedics, they noticed, right, that when they were using plasma, they were able to get better wound healing. They were able to get tendon repair, ligament repair. And so that is kind of the concept. So now they're applying it to a lot more uses. Obviously, there's ongoing studies and research in regards to other applications, and it has crossed over into aesthetics as well, in the sense of regenerating collagen and elastin, hair regrowth, sexual dysfunction, and then still, being used for orthopedics, wound healing, things like that.
Amazing. Sounding like a bit of a panacea. It sounds like many uses.
Exactly.
Yes.
It's the Windex.
Yes, indeed. So as the founder, how do you split your time at the moment? Are you mostly in treatment or business ops or client engagement or all of the above or none of the above? How does it work out for you?
Yeah, I'm my sole employee as a new business. So I do it all. I clean the bathrooms and the floors. I do the bookkeeping and the accounting. I do, the community engagement and the interaction, with local businesses in the community. I literally just last week hired just a part-time admin to help me just with patient follow-up and things like that. But I mostly do everything. And, I realized that I am the best person to sell myself, right? I know my business better than anyone else. So I think as a new business owner, and this is my first business, right? Like learning how to let go of some of those aspects is very difficult. And I'm sure other people can identify with that. But yeah, I think I probably spend like 50% of my time doing actual patient care and then the rest of the time doing, the administrative aspect of running a business and trying to grow a business. And then I'm also a professor part-time. So I also do that on the side.
That's amazing. So you're wearing all the hats and you've got the academic one
Yes.
as well.
Yes,
Amazing.
I try.
So what was something that you didn't expect about running a clinic that surprised you? Because this is all fairly new for you, I guess.
Yes, I think I assumed because I was good at my job that people would just come. But that doesn't happen at all, not even close. So
Mm-hmm.
I literally have to convince people to come. So yeah, I think I underestimated the marketing aspect of healthcare, and then also I think what I struggle with as a healthcare provider is, right, like I'm running a business. This is a business that the point of it is to make money, right? And so kind of that dichotomy between being a healthcare provider before separating myself from the actual financial, right? Like before it was like, this is the problem, this is what you need. Yes, this is what it costs, but I have I have like no bearing on the cost, or, I have no control over the cost, and I'm like separated, right, from the financial aspect. Whereas here, right, like I'm recommending to patients, oh, I think this is what you need, this is what it's going to cost. But also that's my livelihood now, right? Like that's how I keep my lights on. That's how I pay for, my supplies. And, even though right now I'm not paying myself, right, like that's how I can help my business grow. So I think that part of it, and I'm still struggling with that, right? Like when I do consultations, like how to speak to patients in the sense that like I'm not like a salesperson, right? I'm a medical provider, but at the end of the day, I also have to sell myself in order to keep this business going. So I think that part has been very difficult for me. I'm still struggling. I
understand.
with it. Yeah.
Completely get it. I come from
Yeah.
a similar thing. So how do you define success right now? I mean, what does a good day look like for you in Plasma Med Spa?
I mean, having patience is nice. So, but I think, and I don't remember where I read this, or I think maybe I listened to it in a podcast or an audiobook. But I try to define success not just financially, right? Like, so I try to look at, and again, I don't remember, it was a book, but I don't remember exactly what, but they talked about Japanese culture and how in Japanese culture, they basically rever failure because that's how you learn. And so I'm trying to really apply that to myself as a business owner in the sense that like, okay, well, if this isn't working, right, I'm basically learning, like I'm not looking at it as a failure or a lack of success, but rather as a learning opportunity to say, okay, well, what should I be doing different in order to, grow my business, right? So, I mean, yes, I do look at financial numbers. Obviously, everyone does. I have to pay my bills. I have to, pay my malpractice insurance and all that good stuff. But I think a successful day for me is a day where I have patience. And maybe I think overall I look at the month, and I was actually talking to my husband about it last night because summers in aesthetics at least are very slow in the United States. People travel, kids are in camp, all that stuff. And so he's like, well, don't look at, like your goal, like hitting your goals for the month, look at year over year, right? Like what you're doing. So, this month I did better than last year this month. So I guess that's a success.
Very good. Are you seeing any shifts in the med spa world, whether it's around client demands, technology, messaging, or other things that you've noticed?
Yeah, I mean, I think definitely aesthetics has shifted away from like the doing a lot type of aesthetic in the sense of like, oh, let's, do a lot of filler or a lot of Botox, and more like towards natural, like a more natural look, right? Like what I think people call like natural aesthetics or undetectable aesthetics. And that's when I came into the space, something that I made a goal, like that's like what I like to focus on. So obviously that's great. But also more in the sense of like anti-aging, right? Which also, it goes hand in hand with functional medicine, right? So we're looking not just, right, like the health of our skin, for example, is not just because, I do skincare and facials and microneedling and filler and all these other things. It's also because I exercise and I eat well and I sleep, right? Like all those things factor into aesthetics as well, right? Like if I have a smoker who's unhealthy, like, and I'm doing all these things to their face, right? Like they're still not going to get, the best result if they're not also taking care of their body. So I think that shift is happening, and and I'm sure for you it's also similar in functional medicine where you have to have the patients buy in, right? Because if they're like, no, just like put filler in my face, um, which like fine, I can do that, but at the end of the day, like what are you truly doing in the sense of anti-aging and really like protecting the health of your skin, your whatever else we're talking about. So I think slowly patients are coming to like understand that. And I don't know if you see that shift as well. But having that buy-in from the patients is just really important, because no matter what I tell the patients, if they are not willing to do it, then it's not really going to be a good care plan for them. So yeah, I think that shift is good.
No, totally resonate with the holistic approach. And yeah, patients that are coming for functional medicine kind of know that that's what we're going to be doing. So it kind of helps, because it's not a very well understood term, certainly in the UK. Functional medicine, a lot of people still what's that? But the ones that know about it know that they're going to be getting that more holistic approach, which is going to include sort of nutritional, dietary and lifestyle factors as well. So completely resonate. So is there anything that clients are asking for now that they weren't 6-12 months ago, or before you were setting up your clinic, that you've noticed? Or is it things?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. In the United States, we have the FDA, which takes a long time to approve like certain things. So now, for example, like people are asking a lot for exosomes, and those types of or stem cells, treatments. Now, I don't do anything that's not FDA approved. That's just my personal preference. I like to, mostly it's to protect my license, right? I worked really hard to get it, so I want to keep it. But yeah, so I think so people are asking for that. I don't offer, for example, exosomes just because, right, like I need to make sure that what I'm doing is evidence-based and that I am protecting my patient safety and stuff like that. So I don't know how it works in the UK, but I wait for the people to say, okay, this is okay to do before I do it. So yeah, but I do notice a shift, right? People are asking for more things like, regenerative medicine versus, like the Botox fillers, things like that.
Got it. Unfortunately, things like exosomes and stem cells we don't have in the UK, so we're much more limited in terms of our repertoire. But completely understand they need to stay within the guidelines and the law, for all the reasons that you've said.
Yes.
So I guess client education is pretty important. How do you educate your clients right now?
Yeah, so I think that the best aspect of what I personally do is patient education, because at the end of the day, when patients expect certain results, right, there's always a variability, right? And same probably in functional medicine, right? Like not everyone is going to have the same result. And so I think doing like a thorough consultation with the patient and letting them know, okay, this is what I think we can achieve. This is what I don't think we can achieve. Results are variable, right? Like, and especially when we do regenerative medicine, when I use plasma, right? Like my plasma is different than yours. It is different than the next person's. So just kind of making sure that they know what the expectations are. And then, being realistic. So I think patient education starts right, like before I even start any treatment. Again, we need that buy-in from the patient in order to make sure that they're following through with their treatment plan, that they're doing the things that they need to do at home, that it's not just a one and done, right? Like just like anything else, and probably less so in aesthetics, but I'm sure in functional medicine, right? Like this is a lifelong journey. It's not, and same thing with aesthetics, actually. I mean, like even though, you can have one and done procedures, I tell people it's not like you don't brush your teeth one day and then you have clean teeth for the rest of your life. And it's the same with aesthetics. It's the same with your health. It's the same with functional medicine, right? Like this is a lifelong journey. We're going to continue to age. So we need to do things pretty much every day, right? To be able to not stop aging, but age, right, in the best way that we possibly can. And that takes work. It's not something that comes naturally. So yeah, so I think that's kind of the core, and I do that in my consultations. I mean, obviously after procedures, I, talk to patients about aftercare, and, I also send them an email copy or print it out for them. but yeah, I mean, I think the patients that are most likely to comply with these types of things are the patients that really listen and kind of, again, like I said, buy in from the beginning, from the consultation, and then those are the patients that are usually the happiest and have the best results. So,
Got it. I don't know what your patients are like, but do you think the average patient really understands some of the treatments they ask for? And that's not meaning to insult them, but I just wondered, when you have that first meeting, do you really get an understanding of
um,
some of the things they might be asking for?
Yeah, I think most people nowadays get their information from social media, which is great.
Mm.
I mean, like, I pay a marketing company to do my social media. So, we all have, it's all part of the marketing, field at this point. So I don't think it's a bad way, to learn about things, but obviously the nuances of certain treatments are just not there in like a 30-second video. So yeah, I do think, and actually, I spoke to like a marketing consultant one time, and I was telling him about the just the difficulty that I have between like selling, right? Selling the procedures, the treatments, right, that I'm doing, because this is a cash-based practice, versus like me being a medical professional and just like focusing on like medically what everything is. And he told me, he's like, well, listen, they come to you because you're the expert. So if you are telling them you need this and this and this, right? Like it's because you're the expert. That's why you're telling them that. And so, right, they're like reading and seeing all the stuff on social media, thinking that they might need it, but you're the expert. You're the one who's like, they come to you for that. And so, so I think that part of it, right, is part of the education, part of the consultation, right? Like really telling patients, okay, yes, this, you saw this on social media, but because of such and such and such of your anatomy or whatever, like, I don't think that this is a good option for you. Um, and I even show them on myself, right? Like, oh, I'm not a good candidate for this. Like, look, like, let me show you, right?
Mhm.
And so, yeah, I think that's where the patient education is really important, because I think if you do a good job and say, hey, I don't think you're a good candidate for this treatment, right? They're not going to go seek out another provider to do that same treatment and then maybe do something detrimental, right? So, yeah, so that's my take on it.
Thank you. And in terms of the aesthetic industry in general, do you think it's moving faster, or is it just getting noisier?
Um, I think there is a lot of noise. I mean, just like anything else, right? Like there's always something that's exciting and but and and that's why I kind of wait for, evidence-based studies and stuff like that, because there's always going to be something new and exciting. And I do think that there's so much in aesthetics. There is a lot of noise in aesthetics. I do think that that's true. Um, and I say that just as like a business owner, because I have reps coming in here like every day. Oh, you need to do this. This is amazing. You need to get this. You need to get this machine. You need to get this product. You need, and there is a lot of noise. So I think sometimes like like focusing on what you think is really effective is really important. And again, that's why I try to run my practice on evidence-based practice. Like I will go and read studies, like to make sure that I'm doing what's best for my patients. Um, and not to say that these new treatments aren't good, right? I just want to make sure that I'm easily able to apply it to my patient population, with safety and, being able to get good results. Because at the end of the day, in the United States, aesthetics is very expensive. People invest a lot of money in it. And so if I'm not giving them good products, good services, right, then that's my name that's on the line. So,
Of course.
yeah.
Of course. So you're a year in, or just over a year in. What's been
Mhm.
working well for you in the last year that you're sort of proud of?
Yeah, I won best of my city, so that was
Amazing.
exciting.
Congratulations.
After a year, thank you. Yes. So I think that the customer service that I'm able to give, again, right now it's me, so I'm the one answering the phones. I'm the one texting the patients back. I'm the one, when my patients tell me that, they're getting engaged or going on a vacation, and I'm like, hey, how was your vacation? Congratulations. Right. Like it's me. It's me.
Mhm.
So, and I know that, won't, hopefully, I won't be the one doing that all the time if my business is able to grow. But I do, want to set that standard, right, for customer service. I do believe that customer service starts before the patient even comes in the door, right? So being engaging and trustworthy and honesty, right? Like all that stuff is really important to me. So trying to set that as a brand, I think is what has helped me. Most of the people that come to me are from patient referrals. So I see that as a good thing, right? Like people are happy, they're referring their friends. And again, most of the people that come to me are not from Google or social media. So yeah, I see that as a positive. Obviously, it's a slower growth, right? Patient referrals are slower than
Mm.
some of the other marketing opportunities. But again, I think building like a luxury brand that is really trustworthy and really getting that brand awareness takes time. And so I'm prepared to put in the work for that.
Nice. And on the other side of the equation, is there anything that's been particularly frustrating or challenging or part of the business that you're kind of still figuring out?
Um, I think sometimes, and I don't know if that happens to a lot of new business owners, but like, looking at other similar businesses in my area that are maybe not doing it the right way or doing it illegally and seeing them succeed is sometimes really frustrating for me. And it's funny because I have friends who are a dentist and an orthodontist, and they opened up their own practice a few years ago. And I told him, I was like, wouldn't it be really nice if there was like a yellow brick road to like all the honest businesses, and people could just like take that road right there? That would be nice. So yeah, I think that part is really frustrating. And then also, um, I'm gonna say like motivation, right? So right, like I have a good day and then I have like 2 bad weeks in the sense of like patient volume, and then I'm like, oh my God, this is what am I doing? I'm not doing any right. So kind of like the self talk in the sense of getting up every day and being like, today's gonna be a good day, and maintaining the motivation every day as a business owner when you're wearing so many hats. I think that part has been hard for me.
Have you had any moments where you've thought you're not sure this is sustainable, whether it be the summer lull or when you've got uncertain about how many people are coming through the door?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I
Mm.
mean, I would say daily. I will say, so when I opened my business, and a lot of my patients know this about me, but when I opened my business, one of the reasons I was able to quit my job and do this was because my husband was the financial provider for the family, and he
Mhm.
got laid off from his job a month after I opened my business.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and it took him a very long time to find work. So that part, was very stressful. And pretty much every day I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna try to like get out of the business, go get a full-time job. And he, said absolutely not, like you're not going to do that. You're building something great. And so yeah, I mean, I guess having the faith of my family, my friends, has been very helpful. But still on a daily basis, I think that,
Mm.
I mean, it doesn't, so far has not affected like my willingness to come and work hard and do what I need to do. But yeah, I do think it pretty much every day.
Got it. Are there any sort of tools or tactics that have helped you to stay organized or manage that uncertainty at all?
Yeah, I mean, so I think I'm here every day, whether I have patients or not. So I also I've made it so setting goals for myself, like small goals, not like financial goals. So for example, one of my goals is to do some sort of in-person marketing once a week, whether it be like go meet with another business owner, go pass out flyers. And those are things that make me very uncomfortable. So
Mm.
it's something that I really have to push myself to do, because I'm not a salesperson. So it's really hard for me to go and be like, hey, come to my business. Um, so yeah, I think setting like small goals, or even just like, oh, like let me think today about what I can do to grow my business, right? So those types of, again, goal setting has helped me to stay organized. I'm an organized person to begin with. Like, I'm good with deadlines and timelines and and that part, which I think is helpful. And I have a good memory. So for example, even if I know that I'm supposed to follow up with a certain patient, like I just know, and I'll do it. But sometimes if I forget, I'll think about it at 2 o'clock in the morning, and then I write myself notes at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Nice.
So, yeah.
So in terms of larger goals, what are your bigger goals for the next 6 to 12 months as you kind of going through your second year?
Yeah, I mean, financially, obviously, I want to grow month over month.
Mm.
I want to be able to hire someone full time for admin to be able to support that. Ultimately, my ultimate goal is to hire someone to do the medical provider aspect, and for me to focus on growing the business. Um, I don't really have a realistic timeline for that. But I also want to at some point like train. Again, I'm a professor, so I really like teaching. So I think that would be an aspect of my business that I would really enjoy and I would like to develop.
Lovely. And if you could wave a magic wand and solve one big challenge, what would that be?
That's a good question.
Hmm.
In my business or just in
Yes, or
general?
yeah, anything you've kind of met which has been a challenge or difficult in the last year, and you just like to be able to wave a wand and it would go away. What would it be?
Yeah, marketing is my hardest aspect.
Mm.
So, I mean, if I could wave a magic wand and just have like, 10 to 15 patients a day, that would be great. um, yeah, that's what I would do.
Okay.
Because it all I think right, like it all feeds itself, right? So like if I have patients, I have money to grow my business, I have time to hire someone, right? Like, so I think it all feeds itself.
Yeah.
And again, like the goal of my business is not just to make money, but to make the community happy, right? Like to make them well. And I really do think that it all feeds itself, right? Like you have a happy community, good schools, right? Like good nutrition. I do think that it all feeds itself. And, I'm not saying that aesthetics is like the thing that's going to solve everyone's problems.
Mhm.
But I do think that it does, right? Like there's so many studies out there that showing that confidence about the way that you look and feel, right? Like matter in the sense of how you perform in your job and your family, in your day-to-day life. So I do think that if I'm able to achieve that here in my community, that would be great.
Amazing. Do you think sort of scaling what you do is about getting more clients or better systems, or probably a bit of both? But how do you kind of rate those two areas of growth in terms of what you think?
Yeah, I do think it's both.
Mm.
And funny enough, last week, because I was hiring this part-time admin, I was like, okay, I got to work on my systems. So I put in a bunch of SOPs and onboarding, and I wrote, basically like a handbook, employee conduct, stuff like that, emergency plans. And when I was training my new employee, she told me that she worked at another med spa, and she was like, oh, that other med spa has been around for like 10 years and they have none of that. And I was like, oh, okay, good. So that means when I grow, I will be set. But obviously it's an evolving system, right? Like you're always going to have to update and, you know, bring on new SOPs, policies, procedures. I finally did all my like medical policy and procedures, for in case I get like an inspection or something. So yeah, so I'm working on both.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And then finally, if someone's listening who's about to start or open their first med spa, what advice would you give them?
Um, so when I opened my med spa, I rented out a commercial space, the one behind me here, and I had to do a build out. And I knew nothing about any of this. I acted as my own project manager. I showed up every day. I met with the contractors. I hired the subcontractors. I met the inspectors. I went to the city and, cried to get my permits. So I learned a lot, and I always joked that after this process, if my med spa doesn't work out, I'm going to go into construction management just because I learned so much. But I would not do that again. Like if I was to start out again, I would rent a little salon suite and grow my business from there, and then, you know, move on to bigger things. Because if anything, like when you're starting out, you want your overhead to be as low as possible. You want to take out as few loans as possible, like just the bare minimum to be able to start. You want to keep your product inventory really low. Like I was literally at the beginning buying like one bottle, like 2 bottles of Botox, right? Like at a time, just to keep my overhead really low. And still to this day, you know, I consider that, and I try to keep my overhead pretty low again, because, you know, you never know, right? Summer is slow, you know, winters, you know, pick up. So yeah, that's the recommendation. And then the other thing that I would say is I had the privilege of mentoring with someone for a year, who owned her own business, her own med spa, and that was a huge privilege because in the United States, aesthetics is not very open when it comes to like shadowing and mentoring. Like it's very competitive, and so a lot of people are like, no, you know, I won't take on, you know, students or even other practitioners who are like trying to learn in the field, which in my opinion is a shame, because how do you train the next generation of people who want to do this if you're not willing to train them? So anyone who asks me is always welcome to come and hang out with me, and I'm happy to teach them. But that's something that I would recommend, because, you know, you can take the training courses, you can go work somewhere, but until you learn from someone who's actually doing it every day, right? Like it's very different.
Got it. Tal, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. I've really enjoyed this conversation. Thank you for your valuable, honest and deep insights into what you do and your ethos. It's been really, really interesting, and I'm sure this is going to resonate with our listeners. So thank you so much for joining me this afternoon.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.